¿Cuál es su juego favorito?
Okay, which is your favorite trick of magic about your magic in general, and why?
Okay, and I'm talking to you or
Yeah.
talking to this?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, so the question is, what's my favorite trick and why? And the truth is, I don't have a favorite trick. My favorite trick is whatever trick I'm doing at the moment. That's my favorite trick. And it has so little to do with me, you know, what the favorite trick is. I don't even like to think of it in terms of what do I like to do. I try to find what's right for the situation and for the other people, and it's always different. It depends on the person what their favorite trick is. You know, sometimes it's just a false transfer, a false pickup or something, and it makes somebody surprised. And for me, that's my favorite trick right then. But yeah, there's nothing that I just like to perform because it's fun to perform and fun to do. It's all about the other people, and if they react really crazy to a joke, and that joke is my favorite joke, and if they like tonight, you know, I like this torn and restored card, right? But tonight, it didn't get a reaction so much. So is that my favorite trick? It wasn't my favorite trick because it didn't achieve the desired result, you know. So for me, it's really about what's the right trick for the situation, and I try not to have a favorite, so that I'm open to whatever they want to see.
Okay, next one. Which magician have influenced you?
I've been influenced by a lot of magicians. You know, I grew up in a small town, in a small state, so there really wasn't a lot of magicians around, but I read a lot of books. And what I had to do was to pretend like these great magicians were my friends. And I drew a table, and I said, okay, Ed Marlowe is going to be sitting here, and Di Vernon is going to be sitting here, and Irv Weiner is going to be sitting here, and Harry Lorraine will be sitting here, and I will be sitting here. And each one of these guys thinks a certain way. And so I would imagine, okay, here's the topic. And I would try to imagine, okay, what would Ed Marlowe say about this? And Ed Marlowe has a way of thinking. Okay, how many different effects can we accomplish with this same method? Or here's an effect, how many different methods can accomplish that same effect? You know, he would have maybe 15 versions of a trick, you know, and it's like, wow, he really thought about the trick from different ways. How many different ways? What's the basic idea, and how can we expand it? Di Vernon would think about things in a certain way. You know, Irv Weiner is maybe not a very well-known magician, but he was a big influence on me because he would come to the colleges in my state, and he was maybe the only magician, now that I think about it, that I saw that would just walk out with a briefcase, set it down, and then entertain 1,000 people just out of this briefcase and with a deck of cards. And you know, his opening trick I saw for 1,000 people was the torn and restored cigarette paper. You know, and this guy's up on stage, and 1,000 people, wow. You know, and seeing that was possible, it was important for me. And Irv Weiner was I love people, and it's all about you know, the emotional connection to people. And so, okay, how can I think of this trick just from a perspective of love and giving, and so even though I couldn't hang out with those people at that time, I learned to try to think like them, and it was an interesting exercise, and thinking in different ways. There's a creative guy that recommends wearing different hats. It's like, okay, this hat is the executive hat, and this hat is the promotional hat, and this hat is the budget director's hat, and each of them think in different ways, and you should actually put this hat on and think like that guy, and then you take it off and you put a different hat on, and you think in a different way, and it's just an exercise, and looking at the same thing in different ways. So those are some of the magicians that influenced me, but I try to absorb as much as I could from as many people as I can, and I still try to be influenced by other people.
Perfect. And the last one, any advice to the people, the young people or people that are starting to do magic?
Get out of magic. The best advice, I think, is to perform as often as you can. I learn more from one performance than I do from a week of practice or a month of just thinking about it. So perform thoughtfully as much as you can, and in this way. Have an idea what you want to do, then do it, and then think about it. Look back, what worked, what didn't work, what could I do better, how can I make them care more. I used to have a set of questions that I would ask myself after every show. There's a full page of questions. So here was the show, and here's these. What did I learn? What did I discover that was different than what I thought? What did they react the most to? Why did they react the most to that? And I felt like you can take 10 years to get 10 years of experience. But what if you took every experience and just tried to squeeze as much out of it as you could, and maybe you can get 10 years of experience in 2 years. If you really think about what you've done and try to squeeze everything out of it that you can. And there are times when I get away from that reflection on what I did to see if it was what I expected and what I learned from it. And when I get too far away from that, I start to notice that little things aren't quite right. And so I go back to these questions and I make myself think about every show, about every lecture, what's working, what's not working, how can I do it better, but perform as often as you can, and that's the main thing. Absorb as much as you can. They say that you can tell how tall a building is going to be by how deep you dig the foundation. And all that you're reading and all that you're studying, that's just digging this deeper, broader foundation. And if you really want to build something great, then have a great foundation, broad, deep foundation, and all of that stuff. And what you end up doing will be better. I've heard that like a talk doesn't become good until what you're saying is less than 1/10 of what you know about something. So know a lot more about what you're doing than you get to express. And all that stuff matters. It all matters. It's part of that foundation that you're building this thing on. And so that's my best advice for beginners.
Wonderful.